So besides the P&L, this thing called balance sheet, most people don't even talk about it or don't read, but it tells you pretty much the health of your company as a whole, right? Because you can be making a lot of money, but if you have $5 million in debt, that shows in the balance sheet. So that's what the banks look at.
So that's the big picture. That's all assets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I knew that for me to stop having partners someday, I needed to create a balance sheet, because with my expensive car alone without house, I could not get.
This is how you figure out EBITDA, right?
Exactly.
So you know your value. So if you're trying to sell a point or percentage to somebody as an investor or whatever, they know what exactly that 1 point is worth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I started learning about balance sheets. So I was like, okay, every decision I make after that was just to create a balance sheet for me. So eventually I don't have to have any partners.
It's like a portfolio.
This episode is brought to you by Restaurant Systems Pro.
With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, chef, owner of DDP Restaurant Group, Chef Daniel del Prado. Mm-hmm. Chef, are you feeling unstoppable today?
I do, yeah.
Yes, man.
I'm feeling great.
Your story is unstoppable, man. Like you have such an amazing story. Just doing a little bit of research, you came from a different country. You were underprivileged. You rose to the top, my friend. You made it happen. You're here today. Over 8 restaurants in Minneapolis. There is a success story here for sure, and I cannot wait to dive into it. But let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
I always say, a scared man never wins.
A scared man never wins.
A scared man or woman never wins. So every time I get nervous or concerned, I just think about that and just say go with it.
Where'd you learn this?
My mentor.
Who's your mentor?
Isaac Becker.
He was the first man you opened a restaurant with, wasn't he?
Yeah.
In Minneapolis, I believe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about him, I'm sure. Did he dive into this at all? Did he teach you why this is the mentality you need to have?
No, we are friends. He's my mentor, but we became good friends. And we both, we are both very, we're not scared people. You know what I mean? So
can't be.
Yeah, no, you can in this industry for sure.
No.
Yeah.
So where does it make sense to start sharing your story? Take us back to the beginning.
Well, in the industry, the way my mom is Italian, my dad is from Spanish heritage, and they both love to cook. There's a culture, in America, everything is like fast. But in most other countries, which they are being lost in other countries too, food is what brings people together. I know it's just like phrased and it's repeated and I hate it, but people eat dinner and stays in the table drinking and talking about politics or thing, for a long time. So food is a big thing for me since I'm a kid.
Yeah.
I remember my mom used to make these raviolis made with cow brain raviolis.
Yeah.
And I used to eat them until my belly, the top of my belly would hurt. You know what I mean? Like, food was always important for me. But I fell into the industry. I went to Colorado, and the only job that you have in the summer or during the day was either in hotel industry or restaurant industry. So I fell into the restaurant part.
So going back, before coming to the States, before you were in your early 20s when you came to the States, right?
23, yeah. So I was born very poor. I was born in this neighborhood in Buenos Aires, and it was pretty dangerous. So when I was 13 years old, I was working during the day and going to school at night. I know here it's not normal to go to school at night, but there, so people can finish high school, they do that.
So this is when you're like a teenager?
A teenager, yeah. And I would go back home, taking the bus and walking 2 blocks to my house. And it was always dangerous. It was like people doing like heroin, I don't know, like sometimes being bullied or sometimes being like, they want to steal something. I didn't have anything by 13.
Did you ever get into trouble, or did you ever run into trouble?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I was scared, like I would always put a facade that I was not scared, but I was scared.
yeah.
So I realized that I had to move from that neighborhood. So when I was 13, I moved away from my house alone.
By yourself?
By myself, yeah.
13 years old?
Yeah.
You lived in your own, like you were paying rent at 13?
Yeah, I worked back then, so.
Did you, were you living with roommates or family?
No, just alone.
Wow.
Yeah, I work in the same, the reason why I got the apartment was, it was in the same building than the place where I work. I work in an advertising agency.
Okay.
As the guy, the kid who goes to the bank and deposit and make coffee and clean. And
like the assistant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the girls who work with me, they took a liking of me and my life, being poor and like not having like, I don't know, they feel sorry for me, so they help me rent an apartment so it will be safer for me. I know it doesn't sound, 13 years old living alone, it sounds bad, but like if you know the neighborhood I was and the challenges and that had,
Yeah.
Actually, these ladies I work with, they were like, you have to, so they convinced me and they helped me rent an apartment, and then I would live in the same apartment, building that I work. So.
How do you think this early period of your life of just, these challenges that you're sharing with us, how did this shape who you are today? How are you better today?
Oh, absolutely. Like, in everything, in love, in relationships, and so when I was 7, 8 years old, I learned that my mom was really sad when I was asked Santa for a bicycle, and I would always get like a pair of underwear and socks.
Yeah.
And so when I was 7, 8, I realized that was the case. So
Santa wasn't getting your messages.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I started asking Santa for socks and underwear, so my mom didn't feel bad. So that for me, that story, and knowing what it is to be poor, really, really poor, marked me forever. Like I always had 2 full-time jobs when I was an hourly employee. Like I think it's the biggest motivator for me is never be poor,
Right.
and never go through that. I don't have kids, but I would not want my kids or anything to go through what I had to go when I was a kid.
It does make you stronger too, and I think it's also
Yeah.
a testament to your family and the values that you were given, that you didn't go down the wrong path, because you could have easily gone down the wrong path.
Yeah.
What do you think made you not go down that path?
I love reading since I'm a kid. Like my mom and my brother used to get in fights, and they started yelling, and it was a 50, so it was I think 400 square feet, and we were a family of 4 until my dad left when I was 8. But they would get in fights, so I was embarrassed because everybody in the building could hear him screaming. So I would grab a book, encyclopedia. Then by then every house had encyclopedias, and I would just read that from the beginning to the end, and kind of like,
Zone it out.
Yeah. And I feel like that. I think even being poor, I was always educated, and I always, I understood, I think the difference between going the wrong path is education. That's it.
Yeah.
I know everybody says, well, I was born in a pretty dangerous place, and I couldn't go that route.
Yeah.
But I choose to educate myself, and I didn't know I was doing that by then,
You're
but I
just
think
trying to escape the reality.
yeah, and that's why when people talk about like prevention of crime or whatever, I think it's just education, what I mean, like
Dude, that's I think that's closing. I briefed you at the beginning of today's conversation. Education, right? Closing the knowledge gap. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
We're here to take your knowledge and to pay it forward to the next generation. Not just your knowledge, but your values, right? Because not everybody got the same privilege of having somebody to raise them and to give them these values and to share this knowledge with them.
Yeah.
So and I think that's why we live in such a beautiful time right now, because no matter where you are, like today, if you were born, like say, 10 years ago and you were back home in Buenos Aires, Argentina, you could have put headphones on and listened to a podcast, and been inspired. And that's happening today. We live in a really special time.
I think about that all the time. It's just like the information is out there, which it can be both ways, right? It can be, well, I don't know, there's certain, like all these different, like I don't know, like hawks and ox and I don't know, like fake stuff, you know what I mean? Like it can go either way, you know, like
you got to be careful, especially right now.
Exactly. Right now it's like very polarized, man. And very.
Oh, but just beyond that, like there's literally fake content. Like the AI is taking off, dude.
Exactly.
Like you can't look. Like, we're really close to not being able. If it's digital, we're really close to not being able to tell the difference between what's real and what's fake.
Exactly.
And there's fake content being created, like probably like hundreds of hours by the minute of content is being created right now.
And they're like all these people, and they used to not have access to big audiences. Then they're charismatic and they have crazy ideas, but they
I might be a little guilty.
No, but now they have access to, like, I don't know, dangerous stuff, you know, like racist ideas or things like that. Then they have bigger access.
It's out there. It's definitely out there. I think the 80-20 rule plays. You know the 80-20 rule? Have you heard?
I
think it shows up everywhere.
Where's the
Pareto's principle?
Pareto,
I think it shows up everywhere, and I think you're right. But I think that 80% of the content is good.
Exactly.
In the sense of well intended. Yeah. And then there's that smaller 20, like that those twisted people that try to make a fast buck. But anyway, I think we can move on. So 13 years old, you're doing advertisement. You're working with these ladies. They're putting you up in housing, or they're helping you pay rent. Yeah. You're in your early 20s. 10 years goes by between this point in your life and when you come to the States. Is there anything worth hovering over? Any stops along
I
the
was
way?
just I got into music. I started playing a band with some friends of mine. I got into, like, it was a cultural thing. It was during the 90s, the grunge and all that stuff. So I got very into that, and that helped me. Like, I got into surfing because of that. So like my whole life changed significantly thanks to music. Yeah. And even at the restaurants, and we can talk about it later, like I think everything as a musician, you know what I mean? Like the essence of like selling out or this, these are exactly, it's like I always think like I don't say what Kurt Cobain would do, but kind of like that's in the back of my head all the time, so. But not much happened. Like it was a lot of drinking, a lot of like partying.
So
you're
like supposed to do in your late teens and early
exactly,
20s.
A lot of dating. So like I got it all out from my system. So now I'm more chill.
So at what point do you have this idea in your head that I want to go to America? Okay, so
there's a misconception in other countries, maybe not so much now. Then Americans were cold, then they were like...
say cold?
Cold people, like nah, affection or whatever. Which compared to an Argentinian, everybody's cold because we are very...
Maybe,
It's Italian, Latin. Can you imagine that? It's just like to all like...
Tough around the edges.
Yeah, you walk in the street in Buenos Aires and you think that everybody's like fighting to each other.
Just having a conversation.
But... It wasn't like, I want to go to the States. It was, I'm very spontaneous and very like, I don't necessarily plan things. I hate planning things.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, dude.
So I was dating a girl who, her father was a soap opera actor and from Argentina. Soap opera is recorded in Miami. Okay. He was getting married with his like 12th wife or whatever, so she asked me if I wanted to go. I say sure. I asked some friends, let's go to a wedding in Miami, and then we we met some other people in the plane. We never made it to the wedding, and that's how we end up.
Did your girlfriend go to the wedding at least?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
She might have been in trouble.
She did, but we broke up after that because
You didn't go to the wedding?
Well, we got caught up with the party scene of the raves and everything in Miami.
Yeah, it was a wild time.
Yeah, South Beach.
Miami.
Yeah.
Was this the 90s?
Yeah.
Or no,
It's 2000. Early
yeah,
2000.
still a wild time.
Yeah.
To this day, it's a wild time.
Yeah, it was like we were having so much fun that we overstay our visa. Like,
Oh, whoops.
yeah. So we were like, well, if you overstay your visa, then you can come back. If you leave, you can come back for 5 years or something like that.
Wait, if you leave your country and you're in America and you try to go back to your country, you can't go back?
No, you cannot come back to the States.
Oh, so you get like in the penalty box.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we were like, well, we're not going to be able to come for 5 years. We're in our 20s. So let's check out other places.
Let's stay while we're here. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's how we moved to Colorado.
It's not a short ride.
No, but the reason why we moved to Colorado was we heard about it because we work in a surf shop by then, and I was the snowboard technician, or the person. If you come in and you need a snowboard set up, I would
They're
make sure.
selling snowboards in Miami?
No, in Buenos Aires.
Oh, okay.
This was in Buenos Aires.
Got it.
My job. So by then, the job that I quit to move to go to Miami, it was a surf shop.
Got it.
And I was a snowboard instructor too. So like we were like, oh, let's go to Vail. Vail, Colorado was #1 ski resort in the world. So we were like, let's go there. It's like for people who snowboard, that would be like
amazing.
the street.
Yeah,
right?
like you're here, you can't come back for 5 more years. Let's go to Vail.
Exactly. So we took a Greyhound to from Miami
Ooh.
to Vail.
Well, what is that? Like a 30-hour
to Denver.
drive?
I don't know, but like the thing is like what is different in Europe and in South America. Taking a bus, you meet a lot of people. It's actually cool. You know what I mean? Here was not that.
Yeah, public transportation in America is horrible.
Here was like, oh my God, we thought we were gonna meet all these girls and everything. We didn't meet any. Like, I think the only lady I met she was 90 years old, and she was
cool though.
Yeah.
So you make it to Vail.
Yeah, and we needed to eat. And we were 5 people sleeping in a pickup truck that a friend of us provide. So I was desperate. So I go to this restaurant in the back door, ask the chef for a job. And the chef is like, I say, I do anything. We literally didn't have food.
Yeah.
We were, I don't know, it's a long story, but like we don't have any money. So the guy is like, no, I give me your phone number, I call you back, you know. And that's never going to work. So they were delivering at the moment that I was.
Do you even have a phone number at this?
No. Okay.
No.
And
what year is it at this point?
2001.
Okay.
So the phone number I have is like my friend who was the contact there, that he would say, give my phone number, of course. Yeah. And put my address too, but I wasn't living in their house. So I was so desperate that a delivery was being dropped there for the restaurant, and a lot of boxes. And I started grabbing boxes and putting them away, helping put them away. And the chef was like, okay, sure, put a shirt on. But that's the desperation part, which sometimes is good, you know.
But I mean, it also just shows like seriousness too. You know? And I love the stories when I talk to people of just like they'll get a stage, right? Yeah. And then it's like a 2-day stage. Yeah. And then 10 days later they're still there, and people are like, "Is this guy? Did we hire him?" Yeah. And they're just like, "No, he just never left."
Yeah. So and I was so desperate for money, and I was so scared of being fired. Then, if there was some free time, I would just go into the tile grout and clean the tile. You know, I would keep myself always working.
It's amazing how your brain just kind of kicks in. You know, like when you're desperate like that and you need a solution, like your brain just finds things to do to find a way.
Yeah.
So how long were you working at this restaurant?
Well, I worked there, I would say, for 4 years.
4 years.
But in the same time, I always have other job.
Okay.
Like I always have two jobs.
So you worked there for 4 years. You came to Minnesota in 2008, 2009?
I think it was 2006.
Okay, 2006 years. So you had so 4 years at this one restaurant. What was the restaurant? Was it a well-known restaurant?
No, it's called Venderas. It was an Italian, not good Italian restaurant. The thing is, they promoted me right away to sous chef because I was like coming up with specials and things like that. You know,
You grew up around food.
And with Italian food especially. So for me, it was like, you know, I was like,
where's the cow brain?
Yeah, and my mom, you know, my dad left us when we were 8. So from 8 to 13, my mom worked full time. There was no, she cannot have a babysitter.
So you cook for yourself.
So I would cook dinner and lunch for myself. So
got it. So you quickly were promoted to sous.
Yeah.
You were there for 4 years.
Yeah.
Did you learn anything, like as far as what it takes to be successful?
No, what I learned from there in particular was what not to do.
I was waiting for that. Yeah.
Like,
can you give me an example without being like a dick? I don't want to like pull his
like
name
for example,
mud,
like you know, it was an Italian restaurant and we would have enchiladas for lunch. You know what I mean, in the menu, or we would have like, you know what I mean, like it's okay to, and I like to mix concepts in my restaurants. I don't like to have like, you know, if I serve Italian food in America, my restaurant will be empty because what people think of Italian food is not Italian food.
Right, it's
Italian food is olive oil, salt, pepper, eggplant. That's it.
Just fresh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like olive oil, salt, and pepper. Maybe some lemon.
Well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. And people here would not buy into that. You need a little
tomato
American
sauce and lots of cheese.
Exactly. So that's what I learned from there. But in the same time, I also learned that this can't be this easy. You know what I mean?
This can't be this easy?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, because they thought like the owner was like, oh my God, your food is so good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The specials, whatever. Like, and I was like, wait, hold on. I never have any training or anything.
Yeah.
So I started having the other jobs that I have besides that one. I work in a place that it was great. It was called Sweet Basil, which was one of the best restaurants there.
Okay. That was Sweet Basil.
Yeah. Another French restaurant called La Tour. Then also was one of the best restaurants in Colorado. So I started working in restaurants and I realized there that it wasn't that easy as I thought.
Yeah.
You know, there was other technique and attention to detail than you know, than I needed to learn.
So you never went back to Argentina?
I didn't go to Argentina until I got a citizenship. Yeah.
Okay. When was that?
2009 maybe.
2009. Wow.
2010.
So were you? And I don't
Yeah.
want to use this word like.
I was undocumented. I guess
I want to say illegal.
No, I was a undocumented worker. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For a long time. Yeah.
Do you think that's one of the reasons why you had you waited so long to start opening your own places?
No, that was intentional.
Okay.
When I got promoted, you know, sometimes bad things happen for good reasons. When I got promoted 6 months after working to sous chef, and then realizing that there's another world out there that I was not ready for yet.
The world of fine dining.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. I realized that it was a mistake for me to take the position as a sous chef, but you know I was getting paid, so I took it. But then I make a commitment to don't burn stages. So be a line cook for 5 years, be a sous chef for like 2 years, be a chef for 2 years. You know what I mean? Like intentionally, I took my time between things.
What's the value in that?
Well, you think that you don't learn, and I always tell my staff and everybody that knows me, is like every day, if you didn't get better at something, anything, like either cooking or, you know, or finances or as a person or anything, you waste that day.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I think like even if you don't think that you're learning stuff, when you're young as a chef, you think you can be a chef of a restaurant a year after, you know, no.
so much.
You're gonna learn a lot of stuff. Sometimes like what not to do, sometimes what to do. You know what I mean?
So when you got the executive chef role, was that in Vail?
No. My first executive chef was here in Minneapolis.
Okay. So when you were at Sweet Basil and
I was a line cook there.
Line cook. Okay, so for those years so when you came to, so what was the reason for leaving Minneapolis or leaving Vail?
I made this girl. So,
always a girl.
Snowboarding in 2000. It was the party scene was insane.
The snowboarding was amazing too, by the way.
It was great. But like it was, your day was like this. You start drinking at like. You go snowboarding at 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning to the mountain, whatever. Get in the bus, go to the mountain, then go après ski at like 2:30, 3 p.m., get a couple shots, get a couple beers, go to work at 4. All the restaurants, the PM shifts, you start at 4 because everybody going there, they want to snowboard, right? Yeah. So they have heavy prep teams in the morning. And then drink through the shift. Then do some other stuff. Then they're very available in ski resorts. So I was like very caught up in that scene of like
party,
drugs, partying, like cocaine in particular.
Yeah.
And I met this girl who she was not into that. She was a snowboarder. She went to art school to Madison. Then she took a sabbatical year in 1 year, and that's when we met.
Got it.
And I was like, holy shit, she doesn't do drugs. She doesn't, so I was like, it was very appealing.
What are we going to do when we hang out?
Yeah, so, and especially I felt like I was in this wheel, of like every day the same partying, every day Hanover is just like, just thinking about it right now make me sick. And so we met. She went to med school here after. So she had to come back here for med school, and so I moved with her. And so that's the reason why I ended up here.
Okay. Yeah. So at this point in your story, are you committed to the restaurant industry? Is this your career? Is this your path? This is what you want to do?
So I told you I was in a band before.
Yeah.
When I started creating dishes for, which I started buying every book. I'm every time I'm doing something, I buy books and I try to self-educate. Yeah. Self-education is huge for me. Right now, it's just, I think I bought and I read every real estate book that I could have because that's what I want to do
you're
next.
in real estate now.
Yeah.
So it's amazing all the hats a restaurateur has to wear.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So I start reading about stuff, so yeah.
Yeah. So you come to Minnesota. Did you have a plan on who you wanted to work for or where you wanted to work? Minnesota in the early 2000s probably wasn't known for its food scene.
It wasn't good. I remember being depressed.
You go from Vail, which had a lot of money and people that brought in the talent, and then to Minnesota.
It was depressing.
What year was it when you came here?
2006, I think it was.
That. I already asked you that question. Sorry.
And seriously, if you put a gun in my head, I said 2006, but
But things were just starting to get going around that time. Everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. And I got so lucky that I got to apply in this job. And I met the guy, this cool guy, Eric Sader is his name. Eric, now he owns Larry Hill's Meats, and he was a chef at Bar La Grasa in the beginning and a lot of places.
Got it.
So this guy's into snowboarding.
Oh, okay.
So we started cutting up like that. And he actually, I think he hired me because he liked me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he was working for Tim McKee. That was my first job. And I got lucky because the 3 people that really created this town culinary scene is Tim McKee, Isaac Baker, Alex Roberts. Like most people came out from D'Amico Cucina. I don't know if you're familiar with D'Amico Cucina. No. I don't know if now it's maybe it's a little bit tired after so long.
So it was T. Mackey, Isaac Baker. Who was the other person?
I think Alex Roberts. Those were the 3 first like James Beer wars.
Got it.
When James Beer means something different. Nah. I mean,
what do you mean by that? No, I'm not going to touch that. I'll let you get alone.
No, I think I think James Beard.
I have my own opinions.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
So you just hit a chord with me. So
Yeah, I think now it's I think now it's James Beard, and I say
you don't have
this.
to answer that if you don't want to.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk about it, I won't stop you because I think it's interesting.
Oh, it's just like it's just
It's not what it used to be.
Instagram or things like that. It doesn't matter about the restaurant anymore. I don't think
It's about influence. It's
exactly.
yeah, and this is one of you. I'm about to go down a rabbit hole.
No,
my
don't.
friend. It's a lot of the reasons why I'm. There's a lot of people out there talking about the current world and how you become successful in the world today.
Yeah.
And I think we need to take anything you learn about how to be successful in today's world, as far as using multimedia and social media to create your brand and promote yourself. I think it's great that you have these tools to do it, but at the same time, it's like we're in this like vacuum. Like we're so close to the issue that we can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point that you're making, and like it should be on. You should be rewarded for the work you do, not for how good you are at telling the world. How good you are.
Exactly. I intentionally don't have social media. I'm not in any social media platform intentionally, and also we don't have a PR. We never use a PR company. So
that's amazing.
And I do it intentionally. Like sometimes, people is like, oh, you should do more, you should have an Instagram, whatever. I'm like, no, because I want to prove that you can do this.
You're inspiring me right now because I'm dealing with this internal dialogue too. Like, because I have a media company.
Yeah.
Like how else you can't come to my restaurant to learn about what I do.
Exactly.
You have to like stumble across my podcast. So
yeah.
It's weird because like there's almost to the point where like you need social media to be successful today,
and it's not true. Yeah.
But there's a degree of truth to it.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's a degree of truth to it, I think is a problem.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be true.
It should be a restaurant.
Right.
It should be your service, your food.
Yeah.
And that's another motto or whatever that we have at my restaurants is like, because we're growing. When you grow, you're gonna fall maybe into the corporate way to do things, which is bad. Coming from music, once you start like, letting producers or lawyers or whatever to tell you how to run your band or how to run your restaurant,
you lose the soul.
The soul.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So another slogan that we have is like food and service over systems. And some people, it's not for everybody. For some people, they might come to my company and they will say, oh, it's disorganized, or they change their mind a lot. I do change my mind daily.
Well, I mean, if you're not changing your mind, you're not growing.
Exactly, and I stick to my guns. But like some people, especially like younger generations, they want everything laid out. You know what I mean? I never asked for a job description when I was an employee, never. And now it's the first thing they ask you, And I understand you have to have him, but it's just like, I don't know. It's like the job needs to get done. You know what I mean? I'm not going to put that in paper, you know what I mean? So
I hear you. Yeah, it's a weird world we live in right now.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you land in Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
Is it T. Mackey? Am I saying that correctly?
Tim Mackey. Tim Mackey.
Tim Mackey. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Isaac Baker, Alex Roberts. Who do you work for?
I work for Tim Mackey for 2 different restaurants, Solera and La Vie.
Got it.
That was a French restaurant. So I work for him for a long time, but then I work with all the other good chefs in town. Like,
what is a long time? Because I think it's important that we understand,
I always have my main job, that I keep for resume, not less than 2 years.
Not less than 2 years.
Yeah. But then I have part-time or full-time jobs because I didn't go to culinary school. I tried to work with every chef in town.
So are you getting paid for these other jobs, or are you staging?
No, I was getting paid.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have 2 full-time jobs.
Wow.
Like I would work 40 to 100 hours a week, and because I needed to send money to my family too and stuff. So
when you had a part-time job, were you transparent with them, saying like, "Listen, this is my part-time job. I'm gonna work for you, but like I'm not gonna give you a year.
Yeah,
I'm here to learn."
Yeah, exactly.
How do you go about doing that without being disrespectful or?
Well, I would put everything I had. I wasn't just being like...
Yeah, you're working well.
Yeah, I smoking a cigarette, and be like complaining about it. I was there, chop, work.
So how much time would you spend at a part-time job?
6 months to a year.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yep.
If I like the place, over that, but usually 6 months.
So this time period is 2006 to
Yeah.
2000, we'll say 10 in that
Yeah.
that period. Because in 2010 you left
2009.
for Portland, right?
Yep. Hmm.
So how did you? Was there a pivotal point for you, an evolutionary point for you during this time?
Exactly. I think meeting Isaac Becker.
What was it about Isaac?
He was. I have the same values than him as a person. Like, he would not go to the dining room and smooch people. I hate that, to be honest. I go to a table if they really, really ask me, but everybody who knows me, they're like, I'm not gonna go walking in the dining room. I think it's just clowny. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna do that. I think meeting Isaac, he had the same values, and he was also coming from music. You know what I mean? I'm from the same kind of music.
What are the values?
Well, just put the work in the food, in the service. Don't worry about like all the other stuff. You know what I
If you
mean?
do the job right,
Well, people will come.
everything will take care of itself.
Yes, and I think that's a little bit. I think like most of my people, like I have this guy Jeff Watson, his name, one of the most talented chefs. You're gonna hear about him. He worked for me for like since Barla Grasa, so over 13 years, and he's the same. He has the same demeanor, the same. He's quiet. He doesn't have Instagram. He doesn't, and I think people like that. Also, Steve McMullen, he also worked for me. He's one of those guys who are gonna go to places. Just I can tell because they focus about food and service and not about all the other stuff.
Yeah, the noise.
Also, just being honest. You know what I mean? With honest with the food and honest with everything. I don't know. It's just a lot of micro values than too many to enlist.
Yeah.
But
So you help. Oh, sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
no. But I got very attracted to that working with them, and I think like I felt for first time like, okay, I wasn't crazy. You know what I mean? I was right about even to get a promotion. Some people will get promotions more often than me. And I was like, everybody was like, that was weird. But like, they were better smooshing the chef or whatever. I don't like doing stuff like that. So
Got you.
if I like you, you can tell. If I don't like you, I don't talk to you. I don't.
Well, thank you for talking to me.
Yeah.
So 2009, you opened Barla
Grasa.
That was with Isaac, your mentor.
Isaac and Eric Sader, that guy who
Okay.
hired me the first time.
Got
He
it.
was the one who brought me. And it was very cool because the three of us are very similar in many ways, but very different about like what we brought to the table. Eric Sader, he comes from butcher. He was a butcher and farming, so he brought that. I brought like punk rocky, like creative. You know what I mean? Not thinking like, oh, I'm gonna make Italian food. I'm gonna base it on this book.
The standards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just gonna be like, let's say fish sauce. It's an ingredient that I use a lot, right? And people is like think fish sauce. They think like Vietnamese or whatever. No, every
That's
culture,
exactly what I was thinking.
every culture has some kind of like fish sauce. The Romans have garum,
Okay.
and you can still find Italian fish sauce nowadays called colatura, and it's very popular in Sicily and certain places with ocean around it. So
Got it.
things like that. It's just like traveling, I think, gave me because I always traveled, even when I was a kid, a teenager, whatever. Traveling opened my eyes about like some people don't understand things like that. Fish sauce is an example, right? Like, when you think like kimchi, right? Like, well, peppers that is based, the base of kimchi, right? Like hot peppers, like
The base. Peppers are the base of kimchi.
exactly. Like there was no peppers until Christopher Colon,
Exactly.
So I don't know, like understanding history and even anthropology. You know what I mean?
You just hit a vein with me, man. I think
Yeah.
the secrets to our future are in our past.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing from you is you would use what you knew from your research, your studies,
Yeah.
not necessarily the cookbooks,
Exactly.
but from like the encyclopedias
Yeah.
and the lessons about history and what
Exactly.
people were using
Yeah.
and that was influencing you, not
100%.
what other people were doing.
No.
Got it.
And that was what I thought I brought to the table. And also, like, I don't cook for myself. I try to
Most chefs don't.
I try to pepper, what I like to eat. Well, everything I put in the restaurants, like, is things that I like to eat. But I think, like, okay, if this sweetbreads with fish sauce is gonna sell, no, it's not gonna sell. Why are you gonna put it in the menu? You know what I mean? You're gonna alienate people. So, like, try to just, like, think what people understanding your market. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That's
gotcha.
something that is very important too, I think.
So, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
but you were there for the opening at Bar La Grasa.
Yeah.
You helped open that restaurant.
Yeah.
Were you just an employee at this point?
Yeah, I was an employee. I was this executive sous chef.
Got
Mhm.
it. At this point, do you have dreams to open your own restaurant? Is that the goal
Yeah.
for you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, how did going to Portland and traveling Europe?
So-
how was that a part of the plan?
Exactly. My by then wife, she was doing her residency, and she was
Was
doing.
this a snowboarder girlfriend?
Yeah.
Nice.
I think neuroradiologist. She's a neuroradiologist now.
Okay.
She's a Mayo, but she had to move to Portland. I always liked the idea of going to Portland because
Yeah.
it was like
The food scene then was
If-
amazing. And to now too. Maybe not as much, but
a lot of restaurants closed because a lot of things happened there. So
yeah.
um,
Well, the growing season there, the valleys,
it's so good.
the rain,
the ingredients.
the earth, the volcanic
The
soil.
best, the
yeah,
best.
like
So if you have, I tell this to people, like, if you get a good potato from Washington or from, Idaho or whatever, a fresh potato, it can eat as an apple. You know what I mean? Some people don't. Or Walla Walla onions, you can chew up Walla Walla onion, and it's sweet. You know what I mean?
Really?
Having ingredients like that was the thing that culinary wise, like, it was one of the things that changed me forever moving there.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you what, I went there and I wanted to work with the best there, right? This guy Vitaly Paylis.
I've had him on the show.
You did?
Yes.
He was my other mentor, like like another person that molded me as a chef. He is this Russian guy who has this. I think he started the whole Pacific Northwest cuisine.
Yeah, just keeping the food simple.
Yeah.
I think I remember that being a big part of our conversation.
And the people, they would tell you, if you want to be somebody in Oregon, in Portland, you have to work for him.
Yeah.
Everybody worked for him there, pretty much. So the cool thing about this restaurant was, like, there was 3 stations: meat station, fish station, and cold station. And you would get a box every day, and you would not know what the menu was. And by 3:30, you have to tell the manager your menu that you created, the cooks created, which was great.
That's cool.
There was like 5 items in the menu. Then the beef tartare, and it was a French bistro. So escargot, the burger, those 5 items were always there. But then you have to create 2 or 3 items per station,
Yeah.
based on that basket of produce of fish or whatever.
What's available? Yeah.
Exactly. So I wanted to push myself, so I would go there 2 hours, 3 hours before, just to make pasta or make things, and I wanted to prove to myself and try to get the better at everything. You know what I mean? So I did that, and I also did. We would get a pig every week, and I would have to. He has a big charcuterie program, and he I took over that. So every Thursday, 4 days a week, I work as a line cook, and 1 day a week I will be the charcuterie.
Oh man,
So I would
you must have loved it out there.
I would do whatever
Yeah.
he would give me whatever you want.
Yeah.
This is the pig. All I had to keep was the loin, because those you don't use that in charcuterie so much.
Got it.
But
Can you spell his name for me? Because I know I had him on the show, but I'm trying to remember what episode.
Vitaly, Vitely.
Got it.
Paley, Paley.
All right, I'm gonna look this up in case the listeners want to check out that episode.
Yeah, and
532.
yeah.
So head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/532 if you want to check out Vitaly's episode. Sorry about that.
He's great.
he
He also the same way than Isaac and Tim too. Tim McKee, the composition of dishes, I got it from Tim McKee. He was amazing at composing dishes. Like, it makes sense. You know what I mean? That's what I got from Tim McKee. I think composition of dishes. He's also a very nice guy. Like everybody, like this, nobody can say anything bad about
Can
the
you
guy.
give me like an example of like a composition of a dish, like things like tricks of the trade, things to do that will elevate the representation of a plate?
Yeah, so it's just like, having the right texture, the right, spice level, but like acid. Every dish has to have some acid, has to have some texture, you know what I mean? Things like that. That's one thing then with Tim, but also like how it looks in the plate, like not too playful, not, like adult food, not like little dots,
How do you feel about tweezers?
Tweezers, they're fine. They're fine. They have their place. I used tweezers in the past. Like, they have their place, but I don't have a problem. I do have a problem with dots or microgreens. I would vomit. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody put a microgreen on top of something,
Just to give it a little color. It's just.
Well, you use real stuff. You
Yeah.
parsley leaves. Use celery leaves.
Got it.
Use other stuff, not microgreens.
So at what point? So looking at your timeline, you're in Portland. How long were you there?
3 years.
Was it tough for you to leave after being in Minneapolis, where the food scene at that time wasn't?
No, because I took a 9-month trip to Europe to work, to stash in different restaurants.
Nice. Was your wife with you?
No, by then, no. She was here. We still work together, but she stayed here. And I went to London. I stashed in as many places I could. And then I went to Denmark and I stashed there at Noma. So
what were you trying to achieve with your stages? Did you have a strategy? Were you trying to get better in a certain area?
I knew in 2012, Isaac Becker called me back to open this new restaurant called Birch Steaks.
Got it.
And it was going to be my first, from the beginning, executive chef job ever. So I was like, I want to be the best. I want to see what the best are doing, And this is restaurant in London called St. John's. It's one chef that transformed me forever. Two, Fergus Henderson is his name. I wanted to stash there, and I took the opportunity to stash at other restaurants. I love British restaurants. By then, what was that place called? The Fat Duck. They opened another restaurant called Dinner.
Okay.
I loved that. It was like they would do dishes from the 1800s, 1600s, but like interpreting in a modern approach, things like that. So I wanted to see what the best were doing. So,
you got after it.
To come back. And then Noma was like, like people think that you're going to Noma, you're cooking, you're not cooking anything, you're peeling peas, you're doing things like that.
Yeah.
But it was good to see, like, also I did I met a lot of people that now they are chefs in the world, and I have a relationship with them. So it was a good thing to go there. I tell you though, I will wake up at 6 a.m, start working until like midnight for free. and then you have the post-chef meeting, you know what I mean? So it was a lot of work.
It sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
So you come back.
Yeah.
You're opening this restaurant,
Yeah.
the Birch Steak and
Yeah.
Pizza. You're not a partner.
No.
You're the executive chef.
Executive chef, but I told Isaac, like, I want you to teach me how to own a restaurant. I wanna treat it as if I was
Like
a
owner
chef.
stage.
Owner.
Not like a food stage, but an owner stage.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what did that look like? What did he teach you?
Well,
How did this experience prepare you?
he included me in every decision, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I learned by execution, not by, you know, he didn't sit me down and say, I'm going to show you this. He was just executing every day from the beginning, and I learned how to do everything. While I was at Birch, too, I knew that the next step was going to be owning my restaurant. So as I was a chef, I started, the WSET is a wine and spirit education trust.
Got it.
It's kind of like a sommelier, but without the service part, which I was not interested about. It's
Just the wine knowledge.
It's wine, yeah. So I was starting to be a master of wine. There are 4 levels. I finished level 3, but I couldn't keep going because I was busy opening Martina. But so when I was at Birch, I was learning to, be a executive chef, owner, for 6 years. I think I stayed there, or no, 5 years, 4 years, 5 years, because I started working there at 2012.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I would work as a barista, as a part-time job, to learn how to make proper coffee. You know what I mean? So when I have a restaurant, I will have all the knowledge of wine.
So you're pretty well-rounded when you're ready to open your own restaurant.
Yeah,
You got a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And then finances, like, I think I buy every book that I could buy of restaurant finances. And
I bet you own restaurant. Wait, what is it? Restaurant numbers? Wait.
Restaurant by the numbers?
Yeah, restaurant by the
yeah,
numbers.
Yeah, for sure. yeah. Every book. And I think, like, if I have to have if I give an advice to a young cook, it's like, stay with people for long. Don't think that you know everything. Just every day, like, just learn how scallop react when you put in the pan, when it's hotter, or how much oil you put in the pan. Like,
the little details.
you can learn every day something. And if you don't think that you're learning, I'm not saying like learning like, oh wow, I learned this new technique today, but like little things.
Just how to do one thing better.
Exactly. Like, know how to, which now if I get in a kitchen, I haven't been in a kitchen for a long time, so like I'm a mess, right? It's like cooking at home, right?
Yeah.
But like when I was a line cook, just put the same bottle in the same spot, put the same spoon in the same spot, and that's gonna help you be a better cook. You know what I mean?
Mise en place, muscle memory.
Exact, muscle memory and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So yeah, I opened Birch.
Was this your first? This is your second restaurant opening, right? Because you
Yeah.
opened
Bar La Gracia. No,
yeah.
I opened a couple in the part-time jobs that
Okay,
I have.
got it.
I opened 5 or 6
So
other restaurants.
I just wanted to bring that to the surface because it's
Yeah.
not enough to know how to cook and know how to cook a lot of different things well.
Yeah.
You really got to know there's working in a restaurant and then there's owning a restaurant, but there's a whole nother vertical of opening restaurants.
Opening a restaurant,
that's
yeah.
a completely different beast.
Exactly.
So getting that experience, sharpening your knife with the how to cook better, but how to lead a team better. But if you really want to open a restaurant, go out and open restaurants with on someone else's dollar and learn that business. That's a different beast.
Yeah.
So
I also want not to do too. When I opened Birch, I was going through a divorce. My dad passed away, and I couldn't go and see him because it was the opening week. Then we opened Birch. It was my food. I could not go to with my dad. So like that was in my head, and I was going through a divorce. So I was drinking a lot, and I think I was an asshole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So learn not to be an asshole.
Give me an example. This is awkward. I usually
Yeah.
warn my guests. I don't think I gave you the warning.
Yeah.
I like to talk about personal things.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm trying to be a jerk.
No,
but it's because it's in these personal moments.
Yeah.
I mean, business is all about relationships.
Yeah.
Business, so like to be successful, you need to learn how to become a better person.
Yeah.
And you learn through being a shitty person and realizing you don't want to be that person again.
Yeah.
Right.
And it
So,
took
like,
me
what-
a long time for me to stop being an asshole.
So what kind of things were you doing that was like an asshole thing to do?
Yelling.
Yeah.
Sometimes being too personal, you know what I mean? Telling to somebody like, you keep doing the same, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I learned with time then
Not very tactical.
exactly.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You know, I would never sit down with a cook and just have a conversation. I would tell him during service, like, you burning this,
Yeah.
motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like,
You wouldn't wait until afterwards, like, hey.
exactly,
You know,
which
yeah.
I recommend doing
Yeah.
now. You know, wait
Why?
until, because cool down a little bit, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so the message can be heard
Yeah.
without being just an aggressive.
Yeah, and if you don't want that person to fuck up again, they're absolutely going to if all they're
Exactly.
thinking about is how much they hate you in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like I learned that, but I'm not super proud of who I was in the first years of my career.
Yeah.
No.
Got it.
Um,
So any other key lessons before we take our first break to thank our
Yeah.
sponsors about what you learned going to open that restaurant, Perch Steak and Pizza and Bar?
what did I learn? I don't know. I learned a lot of stuff.
I don't need to force it.
It had a 275 seats.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
So this is the first volume restaurant you did?
It was big volume. Barra Grasa was big too. It's 175, I think it has. But 275 seats. I don't know. Like I'm very proud of what we did there.
Yeah.
So it's not that I learned what not to do so much. I learned like to stick to my guns about a lot of stuff.
Got it.
So
Awesome. Well, we're going to take our first break to thank our sponsors, and we're going to come back and talk about what it was like opening your first restaurant, Martina, where we're sitting today, back in 2017.
We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that right now, Restaurant Systems Pro is offering a no strings attached 60-day trial that will help you improve your systems, increase your profit, and find better work-life balance. All you have to do is click the link below.
We're back, and in your story, the year is now 2017. You're breaking off to go open your first restaurant, which is Martina, where we're sitting today.
Mm-hmm.
What was the strategy? What was the plan? How did you pull this off?
So I got approached by a person who his name is Ben Hertz, and he has a lot of energy, and he was like, "Hey, let's open a restaurant, whatever. I have an investor, whatever." So we were gonna open the second restaurant actually. Then we opened Colita first.
Okay.
But the thing is, the Martina building, there was a restaurant before, was opening up. So they asked me, "Hey, would you open Martina first?" So I say, "Okay, yeah. Would you open a restaurant in this place?" And I say, "Okay, based on the demographic in that restaurant, I want to open this kind of restaurant. It's an Italian, Argentinian restaurant that I had in mind." I didn't have any money to open. I live paycheck by paycheck, and I don't have, besides my car, and I always like expensive cars, even when I can afford them.
That's the Italian in you.
Yeah, the Latin, like we buy cars before houses. So I didn't have any money. So this person say, "You can be an owner." And I say, "Okay, but I don't have any money." "Oh, don't worry about the money." They say, "You're going to be 19% owner." That's because of liquor laws and things like that.
You said 1919.
1919. And then you don't have to put any money. You just have to remodel the place was $500,000 to make it my own. Like the kitchen we didn't change much, but the whole front we changed it completely.
Got it.
And I was like, okay, so I don't have to put any money, but I have to pay $500,000 back, right? That was the only thing. What I didn't know by then was that the money that they took the loan to put it, they built it into the rent. So my rent is, it was a lot back then. It was like $26,000 a month, you know.
Wait, so I want to make sure the money that they loaned you to build it, they put into the rent.
Yeah.
So the $500,000.
Exactly.
So you had $500,000 to a budget to build out the restaurant. Was there anything left over to pay the rent?
No.
Okay. So you didn't know that.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
so you spent all the money opening, and they didn't tell you that you didn't have any money for rent.
Yeah, but like we got lucky, so we got busy from the beginning.
Okay.
So it was good.
You didn't really need that runway.
No, it was good. Actually, it was a successful thing right away. So I spent all the money, and I partnered with this person called Changros. Changros is a real estate person.
Okay.
He didn't have much idea of how to run a restaurant, and I don't have any idea how to run a real estate.
You mentioned
business.
a banker too, so you have banker.
No. Ben Hertz is it was the mediator between me and Changros.
That was Ben
Hertz.
Okay, so Ben Hertz was a mediator.
Yeah.
John Gross was your money man.
Partner. Yeah.
Was Ben the money man?
No. John Gross was the one with the money.
Got it. So I was really curious about this because it was 2017 is not a long time ago.
No, yeah.
It's a little over 5 years ago. You went from one location to over 8.
Yeah.
In a very short period of time, and I was curious. I was like, how?
And I tell you,
I assumed you were been in like Martina was around probably since like the early 2000s. Yeah. But like your rate of growth, like I didn't realize that until this morning.
Yeah. So when I opened this, we got busy right away, and my partner, who is very creative, business-wise, and everything was like, okay, John Gross, we're gonna open another restaurant, which it was Colita. That was in 2018, 1 year after.
So you had plans to open 2 restaurants when you first started working.
Exactly.
Okay.
Both, I was 19%, and then eventually I could buy. After I paid the $500,000, I would be 50% investor owner. Colita was also $500,000, which now you can now open a restaurant for less than $1.5 million.
Maybe a pop-up.
Maybe, yeah. So thanks to the reason that we put so little money in the restaurants.
Yeah.
And we did a good job, and we got busy right away. We were very successful, and that was the things that helped me finance the other 6.
Got it.
You know what I mean?
Because if you can make 2 work, and now you can go outside of your resources, your immediate resources, your partners to go get funding. Right?
Exactly, and also balance. Creating a balance sheet. That was my goal from day one. I keep hearing about this balance sheet that nobody talks about, and basically balance sheet is like
your P&L.
No, the P&L. P&L is great. I have my.
I'm gonna fix this mic.
Oh, sorry. I have my daily P&L that all my chefs have access to, and they see all the numbers because I want them to learn.
Yeah.
So besides the P&L, this thing called balance sheet that most people don't even talk about it or don't read, but it tells you pretty much the health of your company as a whole, right? Because you can be making a lot of money, but if you have $5 million in debt, that shows in the balance sheet. So that's what the banks look at.
So that's the big picture. That's all assets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I knew that for me to stop having partners someday, I needed to create a balance sheet, because with my expensive car alone without cars, I could not get.
This is how you figure out EBITDA, right?
Exactly.
So you know your value. So if you're trying to sell a point or percentage to somebody as an investor or whatever, they know what exactly that 1 point is worth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I started learning about balance sheets. So I was like, okay, every decision I make after that was just to create a balance sheet for me. So eventually I don't have to have any partners.
It's like a portfolio.
Exactly. Yeah. And then during the pandemic, I had 2 options. Get out, and all the work that I put for 25 years of my career, or 20 years of my career, whatever, go to shit.
Yeah. So you have 2 restaurants in 2020.
Yeah.
Martina and Colita.
Yeah. And we were already in the work of opening the third one, Rosalia.
Got it.
So that one I couldn't just back up.
Yeah.
So it was two choices. One was like either just, cocoon like and not move, or just keep going forward. I knew, based on my childhood, the economy of Argentina is pretty crazy. Then hard times always happen, and hard times always go away too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard times sometimes an opportunity for you to grow.
I think I know where this is going.
Yeah, everybody was like having all these empty spaces and all these, and they were scared. Everybody was scared, so nobody was signing leases or whatever. So I was like, that was when I was like, that's my opportunity.
That's aggressive.
To get better deals.
Yeah.
Better leases.
Plus, people are getting, like, restaurants were closing, and you have all
Exactly.
these landlords that they don't have any cash flow coming in. So now, for a very short period of time, you as the restaurateur have the leverage in that relief.
The leverage, and you were like, usually like, you depend on the bank, you depend, on the landlord or whatever. This time it's just like they depend on you. You know what I mean? So it was a good time to, if you had the stomach, if you can stomach the risk.
How do we start this conversation? A scared man never wins.
Yeah.
You weren't scared.
No, I wasn't scared. I was scared.
Nervous, maybe. We'll say nervous.
Yeah. It wasn't easy, to be honest. I went through depression like everybody else, like everything, which, medication helps a lot.
So after the pandemic, because of the pandemic, you went into depression?
Yeah.
Even though you had all these opportunities in front of you, that didn't excite you?
I would get excited in the beginning, but then I would get depressed. It was depressing because, like, I always like to be light. I care what people think of me.
Yeah, I get that.
And the pandemic put a lot of distance between employees and, all of a sudden somebody in a position of power, which you are when you are an owner of a restaurant. It was pretty weird for a while, So people that they were my friends, or I thought were my friends, employees. Like my relationships after the pandemic, I was like, I put a distance between me and everybody else. I isolate myself to the point that I got depressed, My dogs were my only thing. I didn't trust anybody, you know what I mean? It was weird for a while.
Yeah.
And I think like every restaurant owner went through that because, the people that work for you, they're young people, 25
The
years
rest of their life. They can recover.
Exactly. And they're like, they have the, socially they're the more aware and everything. And you're trying to, trying to keep your business.
Yeah, and you're being told that the restaurant industry is never going to be the same.
Exactly. Which
they weren't right. I mean, but we have recovered.
Yeah.
People want to go out and eat.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and people was like, takeout, it's going to be like crazy. I was like, no, that's not going to do anything. Like all the things that people say during the pandemic, I was like, no, you're crazy. You know what I mean?
I mean, there's definitely like a remnance of the pandemic is still here. And I do think it galvanized the industry in the sense that there was a lot of shit wrong with the industry that we were forced. And the after effect of people like the mass exodus, right, where everyone left the industry.
A lot of good people, good talent left.
Yeah. But I think it also at the same time, it just like the pandemic was a disaster, it made things better afterwards because it forced a lot of shitty owners to realize that they have to start valuing their people. And I think a lot of bad habits that were in the industry were forced out.
Exactly. To be honest, for me too. You know what I mean? Like for everybody.
Like what?
Like I don't know. Just right now, like I take in consideration. I used to think like. I used to not take in consideration so much the employees' like opinion on how to run my business, and now I just, I listen a little bit more.
Yeah.
Also, like I told you that I don't like any corporate aspect in the restaurant, but the HR thing is I run a very corporate, like we don't, we are a no drinking environment at restaurant, which is weird, but like, I was dealing with HR issues because people would start drinking here, then they would go out, and then I have to deal with it. I was like, fuck, you know what I mean? Like, So I run that in a very corporate way, that part of the business. So
yeah. So, I mean, during if you're reflecting on the past 6 years since 2017, reflecting about I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about the pandemic because I think we're over it. We don't want to hear about it anymore. So I'm sure that kind of slowed things down, right? From like 2020 to like 2020, late 2021. It looks like in 2022 is when things really started to like ramp back up again.
Yeah.
So before 2022, you had 3 restaurants. You've doubled in size in the past year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
take it from there.
In 2021, we opened Sanshi-san.
Okay.
It was a Japanese-Italian concept.
Japanese-Italian. Huh?
At the same time I was doing that, I was very concerned about the safety and security of my business, right? So these other people approached me from the West, from Waisara, and they asked me if I wanted to open a restaurant with them. And I say, sure, no, without investment or anything, like I'm 20% owner there. And we opened, at the same time I was opening Sanchi-san, I opened a restaurant called Josefina. So I opened 2 restaurants the same month in Waisara. It's an Italian restaurant. I'm very proud of both of those restaurants. I stand behind those 2 restaurants. They happened at the same time.
Wow.
And after that, I was like, I felt very good about myself. Like I still stand behind them, and I love the 2 concepts. And
why do you say still stand behind them? Did something happen that might make you not want to stand behind them?
No, I just saying, like, after all this time, I keep thinking about it, how I opened 2 restaurants at the same time, and they were great.
And they both work.
And they work. They were both doing great.
Not the same concept. 2 totally different concepts.
2 different concepts. Sanchi-san, I think there was a restaurant there before. I think we quadrupled the sales.
Wow.
Putting that restaurant there.
Yeah.
And Josefina, it is still going strong, and it's doing great. So I opened those 2, and I opened a coffee shop around the same time too.
Wow.
Coffee shop, it was one of those things that it was like, I got it with no money invested and stuff,
So a lot of these restaurants that you were moving into, the ones we're talking about, were they basically casualties of the pandemic, empty spaces that just didn't survive the pandemic?
Some of them, yeah. And then at the same time, I decided to buy my partners out.
Okay.
Not the ones in Waisara group, but my partner here, Chan Gross.
Okay.
So I went to the bank. It took like 6 months or to a year, the whole process. But I got SBA loans, 2 SBA loans, and I bought him. So
wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
That's awesome.
So I own the whole thing.
You own every restaurant now.
Yeah, I don't have investors or anything.
Man.
I like to just do whatever I want to do. And John Gross, I love the guy. I'm going to partner with him eventually again.
I was curious about that. Yeah. So it wasn't an issue with the partnership. You just wanted to own more assets.
No, looking back, sometimes, it's a partnership. It's like being married, you know what I mean? So it's not that we see everything eye to eye. Yeah. I think my bigger thing with him was he wanted always to do service charge because Danny Mayer, and I hate, that.
So you're pro tipping?
I'm pro tipping.
Okay, I'm curious about that perspective.
100%. Okay. It's like, that's America. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Like
that's why I'm here. That's why I don't live in France or in Argentina. It's because I love the American spirit. You know what I mean? And service charge, I hate it, but like, we have to do it for a while because we couldn't get people in to work if we wouldn't do that, right? But I didn't want to do it. He really wanted to do it. And I think that was the main thing that was like, listen, people think these are Daniel del Prado restaurants. I don't believe in service charge. I believe in, tipping. So that was the main thing, you know what I mean? So
you got an angry customer back there. Yeah. I hope she's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, hopefully.
Yeah.
Oh man, so I'm curious from John Gross's perspective, because he's not an operating partner. He's a businessman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What are the economics of that from that perspective of somebody who is he like what's the appeal from him? And is he like building businesses, or does he like just gathering assets and increasing the value in assets?
Okay.
Getting in and getting out. Like what's that approach?
And he is my mentor in the real estate part.
I'm sure he's got some lessons that he shared with you.
Oh my God. Yeah. A restaurant can change a community, and not necessarily just the community, all the good aspects of it or bad aspects, but you put a restaurant, the value of everything around Martina and Tilia is across the street. Before those two restaurants were here, the value of all the real estate around here was lower.
Yeah.
So one thing that I learned with them is putting a successful restaurant, you control your rent. If you own the restaurant and the real estate, you control your rent. If you raise the rent, you raise the value. The value of a commercial building is based obviously in the state of the building and the location. But the main thing is what is called NOI.
What's that mean?
Net operating income.
Got it.
So it's kind of like the P&L of real estate.
Got it.
So the more NOI that you have, the more money that you bring to the bottom line, the more value the building has.
Got it.
That's how it's valued.
So the more valuable the real estate, the more valuable the restaurant.
Exactly. The more rent that you have, the better.
Got
so
it.
if you let's say you buy this building, right, and you put a restaurant there, and they say the restaurant before was like, it was not a good concept, so it couldn't take more than $6,000 in rent, right? But you put a restaurant that you can control and you own. You can raise your rent, double your rent, and it's not so simple, but you double the value of the building. So then you can, if you're lucky, the restaurant stays there for 10 years, right? You hopefully pay the building, the loans for the building. And then after that, you have a restaurant, you have a building, and let's say you're like, okay, I don't wanna keep operating restaurants anymore. You can sell your restaurant and your assets.
Two separate assets.
There. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why I feel like restaurants can be a good business.
They can be.
This stupid thing that they say, oh, restaurants are risky. Well, they're risky when your chef is more time in Instagram than in the kitchen.
They're risky
what I mean?
when your business depends on a chef.
Exactly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you run it as a business, they can be better than the stock market. You know, stock market is 8%, right? Like in average, 7%, and we see like it's still down since the last 2 years, right? Like a restaurant can do 10 to 15% profit, and give you more, you know. It's a better feeling, right? It's not just having the money there. You don't feel so like, you know, worthless. You know what I mean? Like, it can be fun.
So did John have an interest in raising the value of this community?
Yes.
So he had other assets that he owned, and he was trying to basically,
hey,
if I take these 3 restaurant locations and we improve those, all ships rise with the tide.
Yeah.
So he was trying to increase the value of the community that he had interest in.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I believe in the universe and stuff like that. And I always fell to the right person. I fell into Tim McKee, then with the snowboarding, with this guy, Eric Seider. Then I met, the universe took me to Isaac, you know, a person who is aligned 100% and I can learn from, because that's who I want to be. And then the universe also took me to John Gross, you know what I mean? And I don't know, I learned a lot from him, and he was the perfect person for me to partner with to learn about the real estate part, you know?
So in this 6-year journey from first restaurant to plus 8 restaurants, what was the biggest hurdle, biggest obstacle for you, not including the pandemic?
For me personally, accepting that I deserve good things to happen to me.
Accepting that you would deserve good things to happen to you.
for me,
Why didn't you deserve good things before?
I always been, I felt not deserving, with everything. Like I tend to sabotage relationships and everything because of that. I had a challenging growing up, you know.
Got it.
So
Trauma.
yeah, like I was like, oh, you have to be, for me to be able to grow. Like my role in the company is growth. It's not. You're not gonna see me at the restaurants every day.
Well, I was curious about that when you started to transition out.
Exactly, and like number one reason why a restaurant is not successful is owner absentee. So how can I make it work without me being at all the restaurants all the time? So
How can you make it work?
So I created this team, which I mentor for a long time. We have meetings all the time. Right now there are 15 people in that team, which they're expensive. They're like a lot of money. But those 15 people, there are some chefs, some are from the house, some are administrative. All the things that I used to do myself when we opened Martina alone, plus being a chef and everything. They know my values. They know what is important and stuff. So they act like owners of the whole thing.
Got it.
So that's how helps me focusing in growth. You know what I mean?
What was that transition like, going from it being in the restaurant, doing everything the way you want to be done, to slowly shedding responsibility?
It's slowly.
It's
slowly. You know what I mean? It's like for a while, I was like, I wanted to be the first one. When I opened Martina, I wanted to be the first one here and the last one out. You know what I mean? That's
7
not
days
healthy.
a week?
7 days a week.
How long did that last?
Oh, my God. When I opened Birch, I didn't want to, until they start reviewing the main thing. I see the review came out. I came from 4 stars already. We did a Bar La Grasa, so I wanted to have a 4-star restaurant, right? And he took 9 months to review me, so I didn't take a day off for 9 months.
Wow.
And I was, working every day. So the same with Martina. Like until the review came out, I didn't have a day off or anything.
That's one thing about social media that I like.
Yeah.
Is that it made those reviews less important.
Exactly.
And I think that was a big problem with our industry for a long time.
Yeah.
That our success hinged off of one person's perspective.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't jive with what you were trying to do.
Uh-huh.
But that doesn't mean what you're trying to do is wrong.
Yeah.
This industry is the most relative industry. Like, what a good experience is for somebody might not, like, what you enjoy as a consumer, somebody else might not like. I don't know. To me, that was an issue with our industry.
Yeah, but it became
the Michelin stars of the world.
Exactly. It became like a little bit. I'm glad that Michelin star is not here in Minneapolis, because once you start cooking for Michelin, then the customers suffer because they don't want the same thing. A customer wants something simpler than
I mean, like, you're a restaurateur, chef success would, depending on where you lived in the world, could hinge off of 2 or 3 people.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just think that's so crazy.
Well, actually, it's something like after Bar La Grasa having 4 stars and start reviewing, I wanted to have Birch to be my first restaurant as executive chef to be 4, and we got 4 stars. That took me being there 9 months. And then Martina being my first restaurant, I was like, I want that to be a 4-star restaurant. And it was a 4-star restaurant too. So hard work pay off. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Reviews, the person who reviewed for Start Reviewing changed in the last year or two. And I don't know if he likes me a lot, but... But I think I'm doing my best now, so.
It shows, man.
Yeah.
So I think what we're talking about is that transition from going from being in to slowly removing yourself out. And it was slow, but so take us through that exactly. Experience.
So first I stop working like 7 days a week, right? Then I start like scheduling someone else to expo, so I didn't have to expo so much, so I could just have start focusing about the next restaurant, Then with Colita Martina open, I start adding people into this corporate team, I call it, or task force team that help me open everything. So I slowly remove one part of my job, like accounting, for example, and put into hire an accountant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if you have one restaurant, and you are the plumber, the chef, the
accountant, the marketer.
You're not gonna make it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're gonna be doing the same for the next 50 years, and then what? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Nothing. You're gonna end up selling olive oil for a company.
Right.
You know what I mean? So my goal was always growing, and the plan was always. I always have a 1-year plan, 5-year plan, and that.
What was your 5-year plan when you opened? Because you just cleared your 5-year plan. Did you meet your goal?
I surpassed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I kind of
My
assumed
thing
you
was
would.
to have 3 restaurants by 5 years,
Yeah.
and
More than doubled.
yeah.
That's crazy.
So, and then I have different. I like to diversify. You know, for example, the coffee shop brand, we want to grow it to like 12 locations and then sell it to someone else. You know, we
Yeah.
are location number 4 now. The goal is to have 12 in the next 2 years. Rosalia, we also the pizza place is very easy to replicate, so we are working on doing some more of those. So for me to you know keep working and stuff like that, I need to keep getting more people than do my job. You know.
It's starting to sound pretty corporate.
Yeah, but like but the thing is like.
So I was going like, I'm fishing here.
If you tell people, no, it's good. If you tell people, like, if you put in their heads all the time, systems are food and service over systems. You know, that's.
So you're not saying no systems. You're saying food and service
over systems
is a priority over systems.
Yeah, you need some systems.
You don't sacrifice food and service for systems.
No, yeah.
So how do you find that balance? I've been sitting on this question, and I do like I'm right there with you. I think that there's a certain point, like when you get over like 10 locations, right, where say you're at like 100 locations.
Yeah.
You get to that point, you need systems because the systems are the only thing keeping that consistent.
Yeah.
When you're a chef or a single restaurateur, you recreate yourself in others, like you've been doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You build people up and you give them that responsibility.
Yeah.
But I think you can only dilute one person so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like one person can only be recreated so many times before that source.
Yeah.
You know, when you like, can you recreate yourself on 100 people?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, but like, is it going to be the same quality when you get to that 100th person?
Okay,
You know?
chefs wise, yes. I got very lucky. I have 3 people in my corporate team, chefs. Then I think they get it, and it's as good as I was as a chef. Service and stuff like that, you know, it's a growing thing. I don't know. I think, you know, just when you take a decision, you just think, okay, is this decision better? It's gonna make service and food better. You know, that's how we keep it not corporate. You know.
Got it.
I work. I don't know if you know. Like I run a hotel.
I didn't know that. Well, I know that a couple of your restaurants are in the Grand Hotel. Or
No, it's Run Tower.
The Rand
Run
Tower.
Tower.
That's what it is.
So Run Tower. So they approach me because I like to diversify. I like to. I agreed to this concept like a year ago, but we opened like 6 months ago, and I'm very proud of what we did there. It's great, but it's a hotel, and it's a Marriott hotel, so it's very corporate. So it's not. I understand. Although I'm very happy with the partnership there, I understand why hotels usually they're not as good as restaurants. It's because that corporate aspect, everything takes like...
Why hotel restaurant usually aren't as good as other restaurants.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just, you know, it's that corporate aspect. It's putting systems over food and service.
Well,
you know
I mean, in the world of hotels, they typically look at restaurants as an afterthought. It's the hotel's primary.
Yeah.
And then like the restaurant is an appendage.
Yeah.
They don't really care about the profitability of that restaurant.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. All restaurant, I don't know if I can say this, but all restaurant...
Go for it.
All restaurant, I think it makes more money than the actual hotel.
Your restaurant? Okay.
Oh, more sales.
I see why
more
you
sales.
Okay, more sales.
You know what I mean? So it's
see
like...
why you're second guessing yourself.
I think, you know what I mean? Like, maybe, I don't know, maybe not. But I think we're doing better than I thought we were going to do there. It's in a 5th floor in downtown Minneapolis.
Is that a management deal? Like,
It's
do you own? You don't own any of the assets. You don't own the building.
no. It's a managing. Yeah.
So, but do you own the brand?
I own the brand. I created the brand. I created the concept and everything. And they are very good at just they go with what I say.
Yeah. What advice do you have for that? Because that's a different approach. It's a different model, right? They're paying you to run a restaurant.
Yeah, it's licensing.
Licensing.
Yeah.
So you're not earning. Are you earning profit? How does that work?
They pay me. I got a deal for 5 years.
Okay. So is it like an annual
They pay me a
you don't need to tell me
big
what they're
sum in
paying
the
you.
beginning. I can't about this one because it's the hotel, so I don't know.
Yeah,
They're
I
weird,
get you.
but they pay me
I don't want to get you in trouble.
very good money in the beginning.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, for me to make sure that we have the quality and everything, it's very challenging in a hotel because the quality of cooks
Are
and
they
everything.
your employees?
No, they are
Okay.
their employees.
So you're managing their employees.
Exactly. So like it is complicated. So I have a lot of people from my
Your
corporate team
Yeah.
there at all times. So I don't know if it was a good deal at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Your
Because-
labor expense is high.
Because I care about
The brand.
the brand.
Yeah.
If you don't care about the brand, it can be a great deal
Yeah.
because it's a lot of money, but like you don't care. But I do care about
Yeah.
the brand. So
I do like that you're diversifying too. I think that's
Yeah.
a really important lesson to
well, COVID helped me to diversify.
Who
Right?
did?
COVID. I mean, like
COVID. Yeah.
like you can't have all the eggs in one basket. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We learned that. Right?
Well, the other thing too is like fine dining restaurants, like what you're known for, aren't as easy to make profitable.
yeah.
They're not as easy to make. They can be profitable.
Mine are.
Yours are. What's your secret?
I don't know.
The volume.
Volume, and then keep yourself like fresh. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I let the creative people. Of course, I'm not. I used to be all creative, and
Yeah.
now like I have people creating too, right? Like I have a couple bar people in the team. Then I let them do their job, and sometimes the accountant is like, "Hey, you're over budgeting glassware. I don't care." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We need those glassware.
Yeah. Will Godera talks about this in his book. Did you read his recent book, Unreasonable Hospitality? Will Godera.
Oh yeah.
He talks about. I think they put aside like a 5% budget or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it is, but it's a budget that they put aside
Mhm.
to spend money on like
You have
nice
to.
things.
Exactly.
It's like the splurge.
Yeah.
But it's the thing that you do that nobody else can do because you're putting money aside.
Exactly.
to
I
do it.
don't buy chairs in restaurant supplies. These chairs are now I think they're $800 a chair.
Wow.
But the thing is this. Remember when I said that I was being a barista, I was being studying wine or whatever, just to be well-rounded. There are gonna be people. When I was studying wine, I was going to restaurants. I didn't care what they serve for food because I'm a chef. I don't care anymore. I was like looking at wine lists. So I realized that some people go to a restaurant. Chefs think that people go to a restaurant for food. No, there's people go to a restaurant for the wine list. There's people go to a restaurant for the decor, for the ambience,
Trying to take a piece of everything.
Exactly. So if you are doing everything at 8, you don't have to do at 10, right? Because it's impossible and
Right.
obtainable. So at 8, all I ask is 8 for decor, 8 for music, 8 for food, 8 for drink, 8 for wine. You're gonna be doing good. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, there is no such thing as perfect.
Yeah. And also, another thing that I think is the reason my success, most people wait for the P&L, right, to see how they're doing, right? So a P&L usually is a 4 weeks period, and then you have 2 more weeks until it's finalized. So if you're doing something today, you don't know the results for 6 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have a couple things that I look every day. First, I have my bank account to see my cash flow, how it's doing. And I have I make a graph. I can show you later too if you want to. Make a graph and everything so it's easy to see, you know what I mean? Like,
it's at a glance.
and then I have a P&L, a daily P&L, where we enter all the sales and the labor every day, the chefs and the managers do.
Is that manually done or is that automated through software?
Manually.
Okay.
We try to automate it with some companies, but no company give me what I need. So every chef of every restaurant knows exactly how we do in every day. You know what I mean? So I call it internal P&L. And we put all the expenses, all the invoices in there and everything. I tell you how much money the restaurant is making at all times. So I think that I removed that for a while. When I opened the second restaurant, I didn't have time to do that so much. So I stopped doing it for a month or two, and my profit went down to zero.
Really?
Yeah. So that is very important. I have my accountant, and I have 3 people in accounting. And they're like, why we keep doing this? You know what I mean? We have QuickBooks, so you can look.
Yeah.
I say, I need everybody to look how we doing every day. You know what I mean? And I think that is the main reason of my success financially.
How often do you do inventory?
We don't do inventory. I don't believe in inventory.
Really? Wow.
No. Inventory is whatever the chef wants to be. You know what I mean? If I see that my inventory sucks, my food cost sucks that week, I say, oh look, there are 2 pounds of truffle in there. Who can control that? You know what I mean? No, but I don't believe in inventory. I trust my employees.
Giving my listeners heart palpitations right now.
I know. I don't do inventory, and if we have a problem with food costs or a liquor or for stealing, you know, I trust my employees. I never had a problem so far, you know, and inventory for me is a waste of time, and I strongly recommend not to do it unless you use a system like Restaurant 365 or things like that.
Is there anything we haven't talked about today? Anything we haven't brought to the table as far as things that you think you can uniquely speak to, messages you want to get out, things like those lines?
I don't know. I think look into the real estate part of a restaurant. You know, there's a good movie. It's called The Founder.
Yes.
That was the movie that, you know, when I told you that the universe take me to places. After watching that movie, I realized that I wanted to be in that business of the real estate restaurant combo. Mm-hmm. And thanks God, I met John Gross and he had the same idea. Yeah. So we both grew together. So
this is where we kind of pivot from like the past to the future. Before we talk about that, can you look at that camera and tell me what's the battery life on it? On the top right hand corner. 44. Okay, we're doing good. Thank you. I couldn't see it from here. So as we look to the future, what is your strategy on real estate? What are you looking for in space? Like what matters to you? Where are you trying to put your restaurants? What are the things that you keep an eye on?
You mean why is my future?
So if your future in the business is managing restaurants, but you're really looking to find real estate in up and coming neighborhoods so you can raise the value of that neighborhood.
Exactly.
So what do you look for in a neighborhood?
Well, a neighborhood that I believe that it can grow, you know, for example, Northeast Minneapolis. Here in Minneapolis, I think is
Are we in Northeast Minneapolis right now?
No, I'm looking for place.
Oh, okay,
we are in the due diligence of buying a building there now.
Got it. But what do you think? Where do you think the opportunities are, generally speaking? Well, not just in like Minneapolis, but like when you're looking for a market. Yeah. How do you know it's a good market?
Well, I like to drive around there a lot, see the food traffic, and you know, if it depends what kind of food are you. You know, I never. A lot of people made a mistake of starting with a concept in their head and then they find a place for it. I do the opposite. I found a place and I see what the neighborhood needs.
Got it.
And I give the neighborhood what it needs, hopefully. So,
I mean, I have noticed in my interviews that the restaurants that tend to open in locations that aren't like the locations in the moment aren't great, but they're like right on the edge. Yeah. You know, they're like maybe like a 2 or 3 blocks away from where things are happening. You know, like the growth eventually gets to the point where like they're in it.
Exactly.
You know, so like, do you try to find neighborhoods that are like that have the potential? Yeah. But are like a year or 2 away from exploding?
Exactly. That's what you want to be.
I mean, I feel like this could have been one of those neighborhoods.
When we opened Bar La Grasa, I remember it was by then the North Loop wasn't that far yet. We opened Bar La Grasa and I was like, oh fuck, nobody's gonna come here, you know. Yeah. it was such a success that like that restaurant alone like helped the North Loop growing. You know what I mean? So I agree. So if you have that location, then you think it's an up and coming, and you can be there at the right time.
You don't keep your rent low that way too.
Exactly. Yeah. Or you can own the building and you control the rent.
Right.
You control the value of the building. You know,
Got it. So I told you before we got started that our mission statement is to inspire, empower, and transform the industry. On that note of transforming the industry, where we are now, where you think we should go intentionally, like what would you like to see the change about the industry?
You know, the whole corporate restaurants, and they put open and close, you know what I mean? Like, then they have, I don't know what the reason is, you know, sports bars, you know, those restaurants, and they're chains, and I hope those go away, you know what I mean?
Restaurants.
Yeah, you know, it's
talking
okay.
Like, when you say sports bars, you're talking like Buffalo Wild Wings?
Yeah, kind of things like that,
Yeah.
you know, like those restaurants, and they open and keep open and close, whatever, or they don't have... they're not intentional restaurants, you know. I wish they...
What do you mean by intentional restaurants?
You know those restaurants, and they serve sushi and steak and pasta and
they're everything to everyone.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hate those restaurants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I like to mix concepts just to throw people off.
Yeah.
But like, there's a connection. You know what I mean? Like...
There's a story behind it.
Exactly. For example, Sanju-san is Japanese Italian. I don't know if people know, but one of the best Neapolitan pizza in the world is in Japan. You know what I mean? So I made the Neapolitan pizza being the nexus between the Japanese and Italian, right? So I like to mix concepts, but I don't like those big chains and they keep opening places, you know? I think I want to see more restaurants run by chefs.
I agree. I think like, that's kind of what I'm trying to do with this podcast, honestly. When I first started this podcast, I kind of shared that same sentiment.
Yeah.
Of I want to see a world where the people from that place, the people who live in that community are bringing people together. It's not some corporate entity that lives on the other side of the world who has assets in that community.
Yeah.
It belongs to the community.
Exactly, yeah.
It's weird, but as I've grown, as I've learned more, I think that there's a lot of good things that we can take from that corporate world, and apply them on a micro scale, so we can be more profitable, so we can be tight, so we can manage cash flow, so we can charge what we're supposed to charge, and give our employees security, right? So I think there's a balance that needs to be made where we take the good elements of that we can learn from looking at franchises and corporations, and how do we apply those? How do we make that knowledge common so the mom and pop can compete with the corporation? Because and the other cool thing that's happening too is technology is getting better. So now if you had a Restaurant Systems Pro or a Restaurant 365 back end office type thing, like, you want to chime in?
Yeah, no. At the hotel, for example, we use this system called Micros. I used to love Micros like 20 years ago, but it didn't evolve. You know, it's like having
they got fat, dumb, and happy.
It's like a 1990s BlackBerry phone. You know what I mean? You can have an iPhone which is Toast.
Yeah.
You know, Toast is the operating system that we use here. It's great. It's great for reporting. It's it's easy to access reporting, to see what you're doing numbers wise. You know, when all these systems are from the past, they're terrible. You know, so technology is making things easier for restaurants too.
You look at like I don't know, pick any chain. Right? There's a good chance you've probably seen Toast POS in that company. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
But it's also the same POS that your first time mom and pop is using.
Exactly.
So there's the technological barrier to success.
Yeah.
And that was one of the unfair advantages these big companies has. They had the budget, the pockets to have the cutting edge technology, but the technology's caught up. You know, so now we all have access to the same technology.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that was a huge equalizer for us in the industry. But now I think it's more about business savviness. It's about knowing how to run a business. Yeah. And knowing how to use these tools to get the most out of it.
And I think information, like study, you know, like listen to this podcast every shift, and you know,
that was the dream, man. When I got started,
I guarantee you, and I wish I have something like this because I was looking for all the information I could online, on books, every book. You know, some books were a waste of time. You know, like, but there was no information. Now there's more access to information. You know.
But like you want to open, you said 10 or 20 pizza and coffee shops, right?
Yeah.
That's a big business.
Yeah.
And I think that's the future.
Yeah.
I think that the local operators are gonna operate like national chains.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're gonna take that energy, take that standard of excellence, attention to detail, systems and process, not prioritize it over food and beverage and hospitality, but it's going to level the playing field. And you're already starting to see it with like micro chains, you know? I think that's the future.
And I think, for a real estate person, for sure, if I have like a mom and pop who is very upcoming chef in town, who is very talented, whatever, who is going to be my tenant, or I have a corporate, I don't know, chicken wings place, whatever. Yeah. Of course, I'm going to pick the chicken wings because I know that if they don't pay rent or if they leave, they're going to finish the whole, I can sue them and get some money from it.
Right.
When the mom and pop, I can't. You know what I mean? So I think if we, as a community, show proof that this can be a sustainable business,
which we're doing it,
which it is, you know what I mean? I changed my life significantly thanks to this. I mean, I didn't have any money, any investors, I didn't marry into money, nothing, you know, like every cent I have is thanks to my restaurants, and I'm doing okay, you know what I mean? So if I cannot be an example of what this industry can do for you in a positive way, I mean, I don't know what, you know what I mean? Like I came here, I didn't speak English, I didn't have a working permit. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any friends,
didn't have
any
a job.
family. You know, I maintain my family.
Yeah.
You know, I could not. I'm depend only on myself, and I'm able to do it thanks to restaurants.
Is your mom still around?
Yeah, she is.
What does she say about you now?
Oh, she's very proud. But yeah,
I'm sure. How's that feel?
Oh, I don't know. I don't care so much.
Okay.
I just all I want to make sure that I can provide for her and for my brother who also help his family, for myself, and not to ask for anything because I don't like to ask for things.
I love it. On that note, we're gonna take one more quick break to thank our sponsors, and we'll be right back to bust out a speed round.
We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that right now, Restaurant Systems Pro is offering a no strings attached 60-day trial that will help you improve your systems, increase your profit, and find better work-life balance. All you have to do is click the link below.
We are back, and the first question I have for you is, what is your it factor? A habit, a trait, a characteristic you believe most contributes to your success. Think of it as your strength.
Flexibility, and stick to my guns. Like everybody tell you you're wrong, or then you change your mind too often or something, and I don't care.
What is your biggest weakness?
That too.
Yeah, that happens more often than not, where your strength is your biggest weakness.
Also, sometimes being too reactive. So sometimes you have to just let things
run its course.
Yeah.
What is one question you ask or thing you look for when you're growing your team?
Interviewing, you mean? I just need them to be able for me to mold them. I don't need most of my people that work for me, they never work in the job that they're doing.
Got it.
Like the accountant never work in an accounting. I like to mold them myself. That way, you conserve the soul. You know what I mean? Like if I train everybody with the same approach or the same systems or whatever than I use.
Got it.
So,
what is your biggest challenge today?
Patience, my own patience. Like I want to grow. I want to keep growing fast. You know what I mean?
Overcoming it.
And I think that's my biggest challenge. I need to be a little more. I get bored really easy.
How do you overcome that challenge?
I need to get a hobby or something as I work. But yeah, I don't know.
Share one code of conduct or behavior you teach your team.
Uh, oh my God, it should be easy, right? One thing I teach my team. I think that thing like service and food over systems,
Yeah.
And also these are 33, 33, 33, I call it, that every decision you have to take in consideration three things: employee morale, finance, sustainability of the business part, and the customer part. Every decision you take, as soon as you think about those three factors and they all have the same weight,
Yeah.
you're gonna take the right decision.
Got it. Share one uncommon standard of service you teach your team. So if you put hospitality, food, and service over everything else, what is one standard of service that you teach your team that is uncommon throughout the industry?
I don't know if it's uncommon, but treat people like if they are in your house. I don't care if the fork is 3 degrees turn. You know what I mean? Nobody cares about that. Just treat them honestly and like sincerely and treat them like if you were having people at your house.
Warmth.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there was a guy, I remember one night he was an employee of mine. And he had the hospitality so ingrained that we were like a night partying, like it was like 5 a.m, whatever. We got to his house and he put in front of everybody a glass of water. You know what I mean? Who does that at 5 a.m. after you've been drinking or whatever? Some people have that hospitality ingrained, and I think I haven't. I think that's something I hope more people have. So
now I know you're well read, so you're gonna like this next question. What is one book that's a must read to make us a better person or a restaurant owner?
For chef, on food and cooking by Harold McGee, for sure. Restaurant success by the numbers is one. I don't know, there's so many good books. So many, I don't know.
You're fine. That's good.
Yeah.
Good 2 recommendations right there.
Yeah.
What is one thing you feel restaurateurs don't do well enough or often enough?
They don't do often enough. I don't know, keep evolving, I mean, I think restaurants open and then they get tired, like you need to keep evolving.
How often do you think a restaurant should evolve?
Constantly, every day.
Got it. What is one piece of technology you've recently adopted within your restaurant that's had a huge impact on communication, efficiency, profitability, anything along these lines?
I think just Toast is the main thing.
Now, what was the biggest way that impacted your business?
It's easy access to see where you are, like data reporting. Yeah, it's great.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. This is the last question. It's a doozy, so get ready for it.
Yeah.
If you're leaving this world tomorrow, all the memories of you, your work, and your restaurants would be lost with your departure, with the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom you could leave behind for the good of humanity and for your legacy. What would those 3 pieces of wisdom be?
Wow. Don't get caught up in the whole like chefy culture, like the eater or things like that.
Yeah.
I don't care about stuff like that. 2, learn your numbers. You know what I mean? Treat a restaurant. There's nothing wrong with numbers. I feel like this is one of the only industries that people frown upon when a restaurateur is doing, a chef is doing well. Mm-hmm. Any other business is celebrated, but ours. You know what I mean?
Right. So what's number 3?
Just treat your customers like when people go to your house. Like
I've loved today's conversation,
Yeah.
man. Thank you so much for taking the time. This is a long podcast. I know it's
you.
hard for a restaurant owner to carve
No,
out
it's
2
good,
hours in their day to talk to me, but I really appreciate it.
I have fun. Yeah.
You make what I do possible, man. I
Yeah.
tell all my guests that you make what I do possible. So thank you so much. And before we say goodbye, I do wrap up every episode by having my guest call somebody out. So
Yeah.
one thing that's unique about Restaurant Unstoppable is I'm trying to take a very as I evolve, as I grow into the future, I'm trying to take a very journalistic approach. My interview is my research.
Yeah.
And that note, who do you think I should talk to? Who do you respect and admire in the industry? People that know their shit and need to be made an example of. Who are those people?
Isaac Becker.
Isaac. Look out. I'm coming after you. Anybody else?
This is a lot. This Peter from Red Wagon Pizza. I never met him until a year or 2 years ago, and I was very surprised. Not surprised. I was very. He's so smart. I love smart people like that.
Yeah.
You know.
That was Peter from Red Wagon Pizza.
Yeah.
All right. Look out, Isaac and Peter. I'm coming after you. I'd love to get you on the show.
Yeah.
And if we really enjoyed today's episode,
Yeah.
and maybe we're interested in coming to work for you or stage with you, what's the best way to connect?
With the restaurants. I mean, like the restaurants' emails and stuff.
Yeah,
So yeah.
got it. Is there a particular restaurant email that gets paid more attention to?
Dine at martinarestaurant.com.
And that's the email I use to reach out to you.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they do pay attention.
Yeah.
We'll have the contact information as well as any notes referring to today's episode, tools
Yeah.
or services mentioned, all tagged in the episodes. Head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/1002. This is episode 1002.
Jesus.
And, I've been going at it for almost 10 years. Thank you so much, Chef.
Thank you.
You were a blast, and there is no questioning. You are unstoppable.
Good. Thanks.
Cheers.
Cool, man.